Hey everyone, welcome to my talk. I'm Giles, and this talk is all about the challenges for Agile people. It's actually the second talk in a series, in my challenges series, but it doesn't matter that it gets played second in terms of the series. It's the one that sort of came as part of some sort of thought leadership after my first talk, which is called the challenges for Agile leadership. Now, obviously, I really hope everyone here at the meetup is obviously nice and relaxed, safe and well, and isn't obviously impacted too bad by our global pandemic that's going on. Thank you, Nawaz, again for having me here this evening, and I look forward to obviously participating with everybody throughout the evening as well. We've got a couple of breakouts coming up too for people to enjoy. So, without any further ado, as a technology and Agile leader, I'm often asked the questions about what makes an Agile transformation successful and what makes it fail from my own personal experiences. And aside from the usual discussions that happen in that conversation we all have on the topics such as I mentioned, the challenge of Agile leadership, which, as I mentioned, is the accompanying talk, the organizational changes required in the frameworks or processes that an organization is adopting, I'm concerned there's actually really an obvious missing element that many organizations, and sometimes many of us in the Agile space, seem to take for granted when transforming a business to Agile ways of working: the people. One of the biggest reasons why so many organizations often fail to gain the full benefits of an Agile transformation is actually because they implement, obviously, all of these Agile principles at the direction of some senior manager without supporting the necessary cultural change and the mindset shifts of the people. So in this talk, I'm going to share my personal thoughts and experiences from leading successful and failed Agile adoptions over the last 10 plus years, and the takeaways that myself and the Agile teams that I've been part of experienced throughout, sharing why we need our people to be Agile in achieving successful transformations, uncovering what makes them tick, discovering the learnings and the challenges they have to go through in becoming Agile, and listening to the advice being given to support them on their journey. Now, as I'm going to highlight several times this evening, their journey is not always that straightforward or as easy as some people like to make out. As we all know, Agile is the buzzword of the moment and has been for some time now. Every day we read about the necessity of developing Agile organizations. And as such, we need to understand where and how Agile may be perceived to be today by the very people and the challenges they face that we are talking about here this evening, as Agile enters its third decade in the workplace. These are actually some of the very reasons why people see adopting Agile as a negative experience and where many of the challenges begin. So I always share these thought-provoking perceptions that have been shared with me over the last few years from both those inside and outside the Agile community at talks like this to see how they match to the experiences of the experts in the audience. So how is it perceived today? As a cult or ideology? As the goal? As simply just about doing Agile? As too prescriptive and bureaucratic? As being fake? As only about implementing parts of the process? A tool for software development only? All about scaling and brands and methodologies and transformations and all of those other amazing buzzwords we hear every day at the moment? Is Agile the whole answer? A tick in the box exercise? Simply just about qualifications? Or how about Agile theatre? Now, I know where to start, but Nawaz, if you could paste the first link into the chat, please. I will let in our guest. We pause for a couple of minutes for our first interaction this evening. Now, you will all see in the chat window that Nawaz has put in a link to a Google Jamboard where, if you're comfortable doing so, I'd like you to share via post-its how you believe Agile is perceived today, whether good or bad, by management teams, by development teams, by the community as a whole. Any insight you can share is going to be awesome. And if you're happy to add your name to the post-it note, that's going to also be awesome too. At the end of the talk, I'm going to come back to the comments everyone has added in for an open discussion. So I'm just going to actually just switch to the Jamboard. The Jamboard is here. And we've got a lot of people in, and if anybody feels that they are happy to add a post-it in on the page, that'll be fantastic. As a working system. There we go, brilliant. We're starting to get our first post-it notes being added. Thanks very much, everyone. And we'll do this for a couple of minutes, and then we'll move on and come back to the post-its that people have added at the end of the talk today. Yes, some brilliant ones coming in. Even thank you very much. That's something that does work, Mary, brilliant. It's great to see lots of people joining in. I love the names Jamboard gives everybody. Anonymous Wombat has just arrived. Anonymous Wolf has joined. Anonymous Otter has joined. Some of these are brilliant. Yeah, there's some great ones coming in right now. We'll give it another 30 seconds or so while people are adding into the Jamboard. Nawaz, you may want to just keep adding the link to the Jamboard for those people who've recently joined, because they won't see the what's there. I'll put the background image back in place. But we just need to obviously keep sharing the Jamboard link with our friends in the community, just so that if they want to join in and actually add anything on the Jamboard, that'll be awesome. Okay, well, there's some really good stuff being added at the moment. Thank you very much for everybody who is taking time to add stuff up here. It's great. All right. Well, while people are adding stuff, and please do feel free, we are in safe space and very happy for people to keep adding. I'm going to obviously switch back to the talk and move on. So to understand why we need Agile people, we actually need to understand why organizations want to become Agile in the first place. So I'm going to start with why these actual organizations aspire to be Agile in the first place. To survive and thrive, many organizations are making the efforts to become more Agile. Now, research shows that organizations have a 70% chance of being in the top quartile of organizational health as compared to traditional organizations if their transformation is sustained. Now, this was recently confirmed in a very recent McKinsey quarterly survey of 2,500 business leaders. Now, while less than 10% of those 2,500 respondents have completed an agility transformation at their current company, 75% say organizational agility is a top or top 3 priority for them, while nearly 40% are currently underway with an organizational agility transformation. While there is a positive undertone from the respondents who believe that more of their people should undertake Agile ways of working across the whole organization, on average, respondents believed that at least 68% of their people are currently working in Agile ways. And that seems a very exact number, compared with the actually 44% of people who in reality are working in Agile ways. So while there is a large delta in those numbers I just shared, we also uncover hidden within the charts and the notes from that McKinsey survey that employees who are asked to adopt this radically new way of working need first to adopt a radically new way of thinking and feeling. This can also be noted by reading the 14th State of Agile report, which recently shared that the top 3 responses cited as challenges and barriers to adopting Agile practices successfully indicate that internal culture still remains the biggest obstacle to overcome. And I hope a lot of people here this evening will agree. So I'm concerned that there's an obvious missing element that we take for granted from the outset when transforming an organization to agile ways of working, if internal culture is the biggest obstacle to overcome. We need our people to be agile. And therefore, we need agile people. Now, first great quote of this evening from Jim Goodnight, who I believe is CEO of SAP. Treat employees like they make a difference, and they will. So, as we just heard, while there is a continual discussion and focus around developing agile organizations to hopefully achieve these successful business outcomes in 2020 and beyond, shouldn't we also be talking about the agile people needed as well as part of the success criteria to help make these successful outcomes become that reality? Now, I often feel that this conversation gets missed out by many senior managers when they kickstart an agile transformation or evolution or change or whatever you and your organization actually call it. According to the World Economic Forum and many other supporting organizations and thought leaders, agile transformation requires nothing less at its core than a change of mindset on the part of every employee within the organization. In a time when there's a lot of discussions going on around agility in business, there is also a need for a large focus on agile people too, and the support that they need in overcoming the obstacles I previously mentioned. Now, successful businesses that can claim to be genuinely agile and can claim to have removed those internal culture obstacles are those whose employees adopt the agile mindset and philosophy at its core, not only from its people and culture, but also its structure and technology, i.e. truly being agile and not simply just doing agile. Those people that adapt to the continuum of agile will see the improvements over time versus those that don't adapt due to their fixed mindset, where they simply go through the motions of just doing agile usually because of some wider company directive from that senior management. However, as non-agile people in organizations wrongly believe, the agile mindset does not simply see things in a polarized view, i.e. agile or not. This mindset is that set of attitudes that supports a truly agile working environment and our people who work within it. This mindset is also necessary for our agile people to help them be part of those high-performing teams, not only to help them overcome the obstacles, challenges, and barriers adopting agile, but also in delivering that amazing value for the customer. This mindset is also independent of agile terminology, labels, proprietary processes, particular agile brands and frameworks. If this mindset is cultivated by the leaders and nourished, the teams and people will experience amazing outcomes, happy employees delivering great value and great results for the organization and the customers. Ultimately, for the people in our teams, it's all about embracing that different mindset or philosophy. An example of our people embracing this agile mindset in helping fix the internal culture obstacles I mentioned earlier takes us from people need to be directed and managed, otherwise they won't know what to do and they will just look out for themselves. There will be chaos. 2, when given clear responsibility and authority, people will be highly engaged, will take care of each other, will figure out ingenious solutions, and will deliver exceptional results. So, as well as embracing this mindset shift to aid in the successful adoption of Agile, much additionally depends on the talent of the people, whether developed or recruited into the organization. Broadly speaking, people who flourish in an Agile organization need to have the following three capabilities. First, they need to be able to handle ambiguity without losing focus. Second, they can concentrate on outcomes over processes. And thirdly, they work and contribute by being a team member. Next, I want to talk about people adopting Agile and some of the challenges actually faced when doing so. Now, again, another great quote here by Mike Cohn from Mountain Goat Software. Changing practices is one thing, changing minds is quite another. When asking our people to embrace this new Agile mindset and philosophy within our organizations, we discover that it's not just about adopting a new way of working. As discussed in the Harvard Business Review article, Embracing Agile, I think from May 2016, it's all about adopting a new way of thinking and feeling about the work we do, including things like the ability to reinvent, the courage to fail fast, the empathy to work well in diverse teams, the need to communicate constantly, and the capability to be open to change. The process of adopting Agile in any organization is challenging in many ways for the people. Now, it's especially challenging in larger organizations because of those complex infrastructures, numerous legacy systems, and mature organizational cultures. These larger organizations often underestimate the difficulty of getting Agile right. So the following kind of very common challenges are often faced by the people and teams when adopting Agile. Insufficient Agile experience. Lack of sponsorship at the executive level. Attempting enterprise-wide Agile adoption without team delivery Agile successes first. The traditional office environment. The tendency for managers to micromanage. And managers unwilling to change from commanders to team facilitators and leaders. Also, there are unrealistic planning expectations. Underestimating actually the amount of planning in Agile. Adopting Agile delivery processes without adopting technical practices. I think my favorite, impatience. Relying on an Agile tool to become Agile. And lastly, celebrating a partial Agile adoption as though somehow it were a full adoption. Now, it's important to note that adopting Agile is not as simple as introducing and applying a methodology. I mean, far from it. Agile also requires that comprehensive culture change we've been discussing this evening, a process that grows in difficulty with an organization's size and scope. For those who are ready for Agile, it's important that they get this right. For those who aren't ready, they ought to think long and hard about their organizational responsiveness and ability to change. When our organizations are ready to make the jump, make sure you understand the degree of culture change required to actually become Agile. So we're now going to, as we pause again for a couple of minutes for our second interaction, hopefully Nawaz will add in the second link for everybody in the chat window. And if you're, again, comfortable doing so, I'd like you to share via Post-it notes challenges that you and your people have faced when becoming Agile. Again, whether good or bad, challenges faced by management teams, challenges faced by development teams, challenges faced by the community as a whole. any insights you can share on this is going to be awesome. And as before, if you're happy to add your name to the post-it note, then that would also be great too. And at the end of the talk, again, we're going to come back to our comments everyone's added here for that open discussion. So I'm just going to switch to the other board and go to the other page. What challenges have you and your people faced when becoming agile? And if anybody's got any points for our chats later on, that would be absolutely fantastic. I will again put the image back. Yes, absolutely. Wow, those are some great points. Obviously, the post-it notes do stack on top of one another when people are adding, so please do move them out of the way if you get the opportunity to do so. Some great points being added, ready for the discussion later. Yes, again, some great points being raised. Please use the post-it note part if you can. It just makes it easier at the end to read them. Brilliant. There's some fantastic points coming in from our community here this evening. I'm really looking forward to discussing some of them at the end as part of our open discussion and open dialogue. Brilliant. All right, well, I'm going to switch back to the screen, but please do feel free to keep going, keep adding the comments. This is for us at the end of the evening, so thank you very much to everybody who is participating. All right, moving on. So with all the challenges and barriers, like the ones I've just mentioned, and like we've just seen being added up on the Jamboard, and some of them not that trivial to immediately overcome, our organizations need to ask themselves, are our employees mentally and emotionally equipped and supported with the resilience to actually handle this change? Agile people and teams need the right building blocks to ensure they become as effective as possible with these new ways of thinking and working. Now, these building blocks may help with things such as learning new skills that make them adaptable, developing greater emotional intelligence, helping them deal with stress in the day job, managing impulses to change, solving problems creatively, and remaining emotionally connected to the work. Every employee must learn the skills that make them adaptable to these challenges that we raised earlier, as well as helping them deal with the stress while staying connected to the work and the teams. Resilience certainly enables these skills. Now, when leaders and employees embrace them, powerful things happen, and I know that firsthand. One thing to this key is that resilience, and is the psychological safety that needs to exist within the organization. Above all, it's really about making the people come together as a team and having that environment that sets up everyone for success. So therefore, our Agile people need the right support. Our next great quote of the evening, coming from Phil Jackson: the strength of the team is each individual member. The strength of each individual member is the team. Although the concept of psychological safety has been around since the 60s, Amy Edmondson, professor at Harvard Business School, first identified the concept of psychological safety in work teams in 1999. She observed how companies with that trusting workplace performed better. Now, not wanting to cover too much on this particular subject tonight, as we could easily just have a meetup on psychological safety alone, ultimately, psychological safety in the workplace is about providing a safe space for employees to be their full selves, which helps fix the perception of a broken organizational culture. Now, a New York Times Magazine article on Google's Perfect Team Quest sums this up perfectly as: no one wants to leave part of their personality and inner life at home, but to be fully present at work, to feel psychologically safe, we must know that we can be free enough sometimes to share the things that scare us without the fear of recriminations. We must be able to talk about what is messy or sad, to have hard conversations with colleagues who are driving us crazy. We can't be focused just on efficiency. So, furthermore, it's important not to assume that once the conditions for an emotionally secure workplace are present, that somehow employee engagement and positive workplace culture will somehow follow. Again, that is also another talk on its own merits for a future meetup. So why is psychological safety important for our people? Because it's the degree to which team members feel that their environment supports the interpersonal risk involved in asking for help or learning from mistakes. Team members who promote psychological safety will invite input from all team members, encourage team members to contribute. One of my favorites, promoting active listening and learning from each other, ensuring all team members are accessible, and acknowledging the limits of current knowledge. As Amy Emerson noted back in 1999, psychological safety isn't about being nice. It's about giving candid feedback, openly admitting mistakes, and learning from each other. And as she argues, that kind of organizational culture is increasingly important in our modern economy. Now, that was 1999, and it's still wholly relevant today in 2020. So when psychological safety is absent in the workplace and psychological danger is present, the people and teams lose the individual knowledge and expertise that each member brings to the table and begin to have trouble capitalizing on the diversity of knowledge, which often leads to poor performance, poor decision making, and missed opportunities for innovation. Now, as we uncover why it is so important to help cultivate psychological safety with the people and the teams, you may want to consider the following in overcoming the obstacles people face when actually adopting new ways of working. Clarifying roles, so that each person in the team understands their respective roles and responsibilities, as well as how they contribute to the team's purpose. Modeling the way, with the leaders helping set the tone for our people and teams, in allowing them to be curious, asking questions, and exhibiting a tolerance for mistakes. And lastly, considering culture, as a need for a stronger peer and organizational support may be particularly relevant for those people and teams in cultures that often value stability and rules when introducing and developing psychological safety throughout the organization. Enabling psychological safety enables another mindset shift in helping fix the internal culture obstacles that takes us from: to achieve desired outcomes, leaders need to control and direct work by constantly specifying tasks and steering the work of the employees. 2, effective leaders empower employees to take full ownership, confident they will drive the organization toward fulfilling its purpose and vision. Next, I want to talk about some of the adoption advice that I usually give to people when they are starting an agile journey. Great quote from Benjamin Franklin: "Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I may remember. Involve me and I learn." In some of the Agile Foundation coaching sessions I give to organizations I'm either working in or clients I'm working with as a coach, I often share the following points to those people and teams starting an Agile journey. Be prepared to pair with others to transfer your skills to them and pick up new skills from them too. Accept that the rules have changed and you need to as well. Be prepared to work in an evolutionary and collaborative manner. Be prepared to move away from a specialist role to become a generalizing specialist. Be prepared to deliver a potentially consumable solution every few days or weeks. Expect to be supported on your change journey. Now, that might include coaching or mentoring. And make sure you get the right training to match your new way of working. As well as offering adoption advice, it's key that Agile people and teams they are in actually have rights that they can hold the leadership accountable for. Now, this is something I create in partnership with the teams and then print it out in large format so that they have it back to refer to all the time. Now, some of these rights could include things like the following that have been shared by PMI Disciplined Agile. Being treated with respect. Let people be heard. Don't talk over people. Listen to what they have to say. No name calling, and so on. Working in a safe environment. Now, that goes hand in hand with treating people with respect. Everyone needs to feel that they are in that psychologically safe environment, that they can offer input without being mocked or ridiculed. Producing and receiving quality work based upon agreed standards. Establishing work standards up front so that make sure everyone on the team understands those standards and agrees to them. Owning the estimation process so that the people doing the work get to estimate the work. It's not the managers doing it, resulting in more realistic estimates that people really are willing to commit to. Determining how the team will work together. Now, the team has the right to determine who is going to work on what task and when, not anybody else. Being provided good faith information and decisions in a timely manner. For the team to be effective, they need good information to work with, and information must be available when they need it. And choosing and evolving the way of working, the WOW. Teams should be allowed to work in the most effective way they can, given the situations and the context that they actually face. Now, to misquote Spidey's uncle, with great rights come great responsibilities. Our Agile people and team members, therefore, have also the responsibility to actually optimize the ways of working. Optimizing how we work together as people and teams should be looked at from a true long-term perspective. Be willing to collaborate extensively within the team, especially with those outside of your speciality. Gone are the days when a developer could go and hide in a corner, and I remember those days being one, and just simply hack away at code. Today, collaboration is required across all team members. Share all information, including work in progress. As we all know, one of the keys to a successful piece of agility is transparency. Coach others in their skills and experience. And here the goal is to increase the skill set of everyone on the team. So be prepared to teach your skills to other team members, and don't be afraid of it. To expand their knowledge and skills outside their own speciality. Again, the goal here is to increase the skill set of everyone, including you. So everyone needs to be open to learning new skills so that they can help the team do every task that is required to achieve that successful outcome. Validate their work as early as possible, working with others to do so. No more writing code and getting it promoted directly to production or producing documents that simply haven't been reviewed. Attend coordination meetings and ceremonies in person or virtually if not co-located, especially with our new norms and working from home lifestyle. Proactively look for ways to improve team performance. Obviously, the retrospectives are designed to fix and improve the team's processes, i.e. Kaizen. And avoid accepting work outside of the current iteration without consent from the team. Nobody should be changing it. For teams following an agile lifecycle, have them commit to complete a specific bundle of work when they start the iteration. Now that our people have been given the rights and responsibilities to help them overcome some of these internal culture challenges during their agile journey, our people and teams still have to interact with others across the rest of the organization. And those other people, departments and teams now need to become agile too if they aren't already. So this leads nicely on to the need for the right people management capabilities within our organizations to look after our people across all our teams. We therefore need agile people management. Another great quote by Biz Stone. When you hand good people possibility, they do great things. Firstly, let's discuss what people management actually is here at the moment. People management goes by many names. We have human resource or HR management, talent management, staff management, people operations, workforce management, just to name a few. Now, I've always had a personal hang-up with the phrase human resources, for those people that know me. For me, it categorizes us in the same way as an office resource or hardware resources or a mouse or something like that. So the fundamental goal of people management is to attract and retain great people who work on awesome teams in all organizational departments and to help them grow. As the people and the way they work together are your primary determinants of success within your organization. Next, I want to share what PMIDA has identified as a list of critical philosophies that underpin the mindset identified by their process goals for people management. People are not resources. Make sure that you also support the agile teams. Also, energize and enable the people who are in the teams. You must also inspire the leadership within the organization to actually become agile themselves, helping them move from that command and control and micromanagement mindsets. Support learning. And we must do this in a continuous manner in our companies rather than that sort of episodic effort that sometimes we see when training or learning is often offered to people within our organizations. Enable cultural and structural fit. Reward for agile behaviors, but govern lightly. As well as understanding these philosophies, the following activities associated with those same people management goals are performed by, or at very least supported by, highly engaged agile people management teams within our organizations. Now, these activities are things such as helping to grow the agile culture, guiding careers, rewarding staff, managing those important staff changes. One of the most important ones, ensuring diversity and inclusion. Helping organize departments throughout our organization, identifying succession planning, and ultimately enabling and having fun. So as we begin to wrap up, why is Agile important for our people and our people important for Agile? Agile changes the paradigm. It shifts perception of the role and purpose of an individual within the organization. It is the shift for our people from being just simply a cog in the system towards becoming a partner and a co-entrepreneur within our organizations. So, finally, parting thoughts. What is truly surprising, or not, stepping back and actually thinking about it for a minute, is that available research shows that the part of the transformation or evolution that is often missed or sidestepped the most, which has always been a big worry for me and the focus, obviously, of this evening's talk, is actually the part that needs the most focus of all. Successful organizational improvement should be targeting 3 areas simultaneously: people, i.e., the individuals and interactions, processes, and tools. Now, the majority of your effort, typically that 80 to 85%, will be training and coaching the people in the Agile mindset and culture. And even though it is just as important to evolve your existing processes and tooling infrastructure, each of these is only 5 to 10% of your improvement effort across the organization. Next, I want to share a very thought-provoking definition of Agile from a very unlikely source. Agile people conceive and approach the world and their assigned tasks differently from those who are less agile. In general, Agile people will have a propensity to seek improvements and are more willing to consider information that is at odds with preconceived notions and are more willing to be different and take risks. These basic characteristics can be enhanced or suppressed by education, training, and culture. And that was written by Dave Alberts from the US Department of Defense Command and Control Research Center. So my final thoughts from this evening's talk. Organizations need to focus more on the people if they want to achieve a long-term transformation rather than a short-term failing transition. Agile people need the right supporting leadership, coaching, and management teams to help guide them on their journey. Organizations and traditional management can't force or push change on people. People have to pull it in themselves. What is the great quote? A teacher can open the door, but a student has to walk through. Your organization's improvement efforts need to address people, culture, processes, and technology issues all in parallel. And finally, organizational agility requires new and evolving mindsets and behaviors from all the people. This also includes you. And lastly, if you're undertaking an agile transformation or evolution in your organization, and there is just one thing to take away from what will actually be a very short version of tonight's talk, don't forget the people. Thanks everyone for coming to the talk today. And now on to questions and the Jamboard session. So let's head back to our Jamboard, and I'm going to go back to page 1. And people feel free to come in, join in on off video, and come off mute, and be great to obviously hear what some of the things people have added as we go through the Jamboard now with everybody. So let's start with our first question: how we believe Agile is perceived today. And if anybody actually wants to come on and share anything additionally, or wants to read out their particular post-it note on the board, please feel free, you can. So we firstly got from, I hope I pronounced your name right, and apologies, Uvin. a project management methodology. Yes, absolutely. We also have a way to get things done quickly, get around red tape. Absolutely. Working system, something that works from Mary. Brilliant. Something that does work. Yes. Hasty devs through weekdays. Yes. Agile equals doing Scrum. Yes, we always have that thing, but doing the vacuuming and doing the hoovering. I mean, these words are obviously synonymous with one another, but they're not the same. Ways of responding to continuous change. Yes, Agile versus Waterfall. Waterfall isn't the enemy of Agile. Waterfall works in absolutely the right context, where context counts. And yet, obviously, still people perceive it to be the fun enemy. Fun from Kawaji. Brilliant. Thank you. Faster and better ways of producing a working system. Something to be done, but not spoken outright about. So it is accepted. Yes. Mindset. That's positive. That's great that we are actually starting to believe that there are some positive perceptions now of Agile coming out this evening. We also have like a hammer. Continuous improvement, again, positive ones starting to be seen, but also a fad, and that's a great one. A dynamic way to organize work, capacity to integrate multi-crafts, and a way work is being done. Would anybody like to come on and actually share some other thoughts and ideas on camera and actually share what some of the things that they see within their organizations? Nawaz, how about you? I might earmark you as this is your group to kickstart some of that.
Yeah. So, anyone, any thoughts around?
Well, how do you believe it's being perceived today in your workplace or communities that you're part of?
I think,
It's,
yeah, someone wants to say, please.
yeah, this is Mary. I meant to say it's something that doesn't work, and then I managed to do that twice, make the mistake twice. So, yeah. So what I meant was that people have their own idea about Scrum and Agile and Scrum in particular. Maybe they've tried it at a different company, or maybe even at that same company. So they have a lot of misconceptions. So there's a lot of, you know, resistance to even trying it again.
I agree, 100%. And it comes back to that thing that you know, there's often people in that senior leadership team who sort of don't understand what Agile is, have that general resistance to it, start hearing about Scrum and think, oh, well, it hasn't worked for us. So they start hearing the word Agile and instantly they're sort of putting the shackles up and the crosses out to you know, ward off the vampires and the voodoo that's going on. So yeah, 100% agree with that, Mary. Thank you very much. Does anyone else have anything they would like to add?
Yeah, Giles, Nasima here.
Hey, Nasima.
I can see there is a various version of Agile going on, and everyone version according to their own organization style and the transformation. This is the vibe I'm getting from my clients. So one thing,
Yep.
another thing, with Agile, we can do really, the future is actually bright, very bright. But it is like a knife. If you know how to use this knife, we can cut the paste the way we want to. Otherwise, it is very much possible to cut our own hand.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's awesome. Absolutely awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You win. I think you win. Maybe
Yes,
I got your name right.
Got that name up. So yes, hi.
Yeah, so I think from my perspective, I think we're at an interesting time now because I work at a very large bank in Canada, and you know,
Nice.
they've been trying to adopt Agile since 2009. And I think particularly in this year, I'm seeing a huge transition into like people actually understanding what Agile is. And I feel like it's widely because now we have a lot of communities, and with the idea of communities, people talk a lot more, and people with, you know, a lot more background and experience, they're able to kind of coach and educate people who are just jumping into an agile world without just, you know, without just letting them just sail their own boat into the agile world without any kind of context background. So I feel like we're slowly transitioning and really understanding and grasping concepts both in the business side and IT side and operation sides, and I feel like organizations are starting to look into how to become more lean. So at least that's my perspective.
I love the word you used there. I do think even that the word there was slow. 2009, obviously, you know, that's 11 years of a journey that the bank has been on. I sort of probably will ask the sort of the general questions. You know, the resistance to change there obviously is probably rather large. So. You know, hopefully then, you know, when we get onto the second page in a minute, we can actually talk about some of the challenges and what, if anybody's got suggestions or ideas as to how we can resolve some of these things, or ideas that we simply can take into our workplace to help us do things smarter, then I think it'll be a great conversation when we get onto the second page in a minute. Does anyone else have anything else to add about how they truly believe Agile is being perceived today, anywhere in the world, in, outside the community? It would be great to hear if anyone else has got anything to add. Okay, no worries. All right, then in that case, let's move on to our second tab that we have open. What challenges have you and your people faced when actually becoming agile? So, leadership still tries to dictate what teams should be working on, interrupting the team's work. I mean, that's got to be in the top 10 list of all time if we were to actually create one of these sort of ultimate lists, ultimate blockers behind, obviously, organizations actually truly becoming agile. And it's actually why we need to actually work harder with our leadership team, and something that I do in part 1 of this series of the Challenges Talk, which actually sort of suggests some of the things behind that. Lack of trust for fear or failure from stakeholders. You know, why we have this lack of fear, you know, this trust issue. I've no idea. It's obviously something that's put into us over so many years of ways of working. Now, I genuinely hope that our future is not that we have this sort of lack of trust in our workplaces.
Hey, Josh.
Yeah.
One thing on that line that I like to use is, hey, you guys have hired these people. They've gone through your HR process. They've gone through your security validation. Why is the lack of trust? You've hired these people, you know their expertise, and oftentimes that kind of language helps them understand, oh, we've set things in place for us to automatically trust them. So I found that's been a healthy way to approach that lack of trust.
Yeah. You know, I genuinely think, again, trust has to be in the top 10 list of the biggest limiting factors, shall we say, of the success of Agile in the workplace. That and that dictatorship, that bureaucracy, that command and control from the leadership team as well. The lack of the mindset, the lack of the philosophy and the values. You know, as we saw, 80 to 85% is actually getting the people to adopt that mindset and the approach properly. It's only 5 to 10% for the processes that we have and the tooling and the infrastructure that supports all of this. So again, why we don't focus on the people, and a brilliant point, David, thank you, is just beggars belief. I just do not understand why. We have obviously management operating, again, these are all the traditional things, so it's brilliant to see. Management operating in a traditional manager, accepting that failure is part of the process. I wish people did. I wish people did, you know, accept the failure and then sort of, you know, succeeded faster beyond. It's how we learn. It's how we learn as humans, right? Lack of experience, not willing to relearn. Yeah, the whole unlearning piece. No, I genuinely believe as soon as people get to that sort of C-suite level and become a CEO, that CEO actually has to spend time unlearning what he or she has actually learnt over the years, because it's not necessarily going to be relevant for them within the future going forward. They need to unlearn. It's like those videos on YouTube where the guy actually has to actually unlearn from riding the bicycle with the pedals going forwards. To go forwards, he built the bike with the pedals going backwards. And it took him ages to actually rewire his brain so that he could unlearn what his brain knew about how to pedal forwards to go forwards, to working out how to pedal backwards to go forwards. Now, of course, actually, as you see in the video, when he's done this, he actually then has to rewire his brain once again to go forwards again. But it was a much shorter iteration and a much shorter sort of challenge for him to actually do the reverse yet again. And it's that type of change that we need to be seeing within our leaders, within our organizations. They have to unlearn some of those bad behaviors. Management not allowing self-organizing teams and calling it Agile our way. Yes, Agile in name only, shall we say. That's truly what it is. I know, as it's pronounced. Management, regardless of level, thinks it's a software thing. Yes, for those people that have seen the other part of this talk, I talk about where Agile is for software development only, and it isn't. It's got to be an organizational level thing for us all to deal with. Habitual reliance by everyone on being told what to do. I so wish we could just tell leaders to Foxtrot Oscar. Confusing using an Agile tool within an Agile team environment. Disengaged organization. I mean, so often because we are not getting the culture resolved and the problems and the challenges there. Is that a link now as to the video I was talking about?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you for adding that one in there.
Giles, time check. I think we.
Oh, are we
have it
now
booked for
over?
yeah, we have it booked for an hour. I think we are a little over on top
Fine.
of the hour. So
does anyone have any final points they want to share on their challenges they face when becoming Agile?
I'll give you another one. I've been to a bunch of gigs, let's say, that have got some of the big guys in there developing and sharing Agile practices. And I mean the big guys, you would know who they are, but they don't actually get these companies rolling. And I'll go in there and they're working on, for instance, a product for like a year and nothing's done. And it's really disappointing because obviously the company that's paying the money for this, you know, thinks they're getting the big bang for the buck, but they haven't got anything. And the last one I did was it was a bank a while ago, and they were doing a mobile app, but they only did the design. This company did the design in a whole year, $30 million and nothing. And it was very hard for someone like me to come in and say, yeah, you know, you've got this product that you probably could have had at least something in a couple of weeks. That I've seen in a number of places, and it's just, I find it horrendous, and it doesn't give us really good rapport when we're going into new companies. That's a heavy load on trust and money, you know. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, again, we had the word, I think, on the previous page, silver bullet. You know, there is no silver bullet to this, unfortunately. But I do think with the right people, the right energy, the right Agile leaders and coaches in an organization, working with an organization that has the propensity to change, is willing to change, is willing to unlearn bad habits, is willing to let go of command and control, is willing to let go of the products and actually sort of devolve some of that authority to the people who are actually closest to delivering the successful outcomes of the organization. I think that's where we see change starting to happen for good and for better. But there has to be that real need for change or want for change across the entire organization, from the top down and the bottom up and everybody else in between. If it doesn't, then you're going to hit ceilings, top or bottom, and you're just going to end up with one of these failed adoptions. And actually, you know, the opposite of those percentiles I shared at the start of the talk. Nawaz. I think that's it. Thank you very
Thanks.
much indeed for having us this evening.
Thanks, Giles. Thanks for a fantastic presentation. Good conversation. I loved it. And thanks everyone for being here. And we have another exciting talk coming up next month. That would be around Kanban on Scrum teams. And I think we have another coach joining us from US. So stay tuned and stay safe. Thanks. Bye for now.
Thanks everyone for coming. Great to see you all.